Marcus Chen sat in his car outside the burger restaurant. His body felt tired. His mind felt even more tired. He had been working since 5 in the morning. The sun was high in the sky now. His stomach made loud sounds. He needed food. Marcus was a federal agent. He worked undercover. This meant he pretended to be someone else for his job. He watched bad people. He collected information about criminals. It was dangerous work. It was also very tiring work. Today had been especially hard. He had spent 6 hours sitting in a van. He watched a warehouse across the street. He took photos. He wrote notes. He recorded voices. His back hurt from sitting so long. His eyes hurt from looking through binoculars. All he wanted now was a simple meal and maybe 20 minutes of peace. The burger restaurant looked busy. Cars filled the parking lot. People walked in and out of the glass doors. Marcus could see the red and yellow signs inside. He could smell the food even from his car. His stomach made another sound. He decided to go inside. The restaurant was loud. Children ran between tables. Adults talked on their phones. The sound of beeping machines and sizzling food came from behind the counter. Marcus walked to the line. 5 people stood ahead of him. He waited patiently. Marcus looked at the menu on the wall. The bright pictures showed burgers and fries and drinks. Everything looked good. He decided to keep it simple. Just a cheeseburger, medium fries, and a cola. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. The line moved slowly. Finally, Marcus reached the counter. A young man stood behind the register. His name tag said Derek. He wore a red uniform and a tired expression. He did not smile. He did not look at Marcus. "What do you want?" Derek asked. His voice sounded bored and a little rude. Marcus stayed polite. He had dealt with much worse people in his job. A rude fast food worker was nothing compared to the criminals he faced every day. "Hello? I would like a cheeseburger with just cheese and ketchup, medium fries, and a medium cola, please," Marcus said. He spoke clearly and smiled. Derek typed something into the register. He did not repeat the order back. He just said the total price. Marcus paid with cash. Derek took the money and gave him change. He handed Marcus a receipt with a number on it. "Wait over there," Derek said. He pointed to the side without looking. Marcus walked to the waiting area. Other people stood there too. They all held receipts with numbers. Marcus looked at his number. It was 73. A screen on the wall showed which orders were ready. The number on the screen was 68. 10 minutes passed. Then 15 minutes. The screen moved slowly through the numbers. 70, 71, 72. Finally, 73 appeared on the screen. "Order 73!" someone shouted from behind the counter. Marcus walked up to collect his food. A different worker handed him a bag and a drink. Marcus took the bag to a table near the window. He sat down. His back felt relieved to sit in a real chair instead of the hard van seat. He opened the bag. The smell of food made his stomach rumble again. He pulled out the burger wrapped in paper. He unwrapped it carefully. Then he stopped. The burger was wrong, very wrong. It had lettuce, it had tomatoes, it had onions, it had pickles, it had mayonnaise. It had everything except what he ordered. He specifically asked for just cheese and ketchup. This was the complete opposite. Marcus took a breath. Mistakes happen. He understood that. He would just go back and ask them to fix it. No big deal. He also checked the fries. They were cold, not just cool. Actually cold, like they had been sitting for a long time. He touched one. It felt hard and old. Marcus picked up his drink and took a sip. The lid was not on properly. The cola spilled down the front of his shirt. The cold liquid soaked through his clothes. He jumped up from his seat. People turned to look at him. Marcus felt his face get hot. He was embarrassed. His shirt was wet. His food was wrong. But he stayed calm. He had been trained to stay calm in much worse situations. He grabbed napkins from the table and tried to dry his shirt. He picked up the bag with the wrong burger and the cold fries. He walked back to the counter. Derek was still there at the register. He was laughing with another worker. They were looking at a phone together. "Excuse me," Marcus said politely. He waited for Derek to look at him. Derek finally looked up. He did not look happy about being interrupted. "What? I am sorry to bother you, but my order is wrong. I asked for a cheeseburger with just cheese and ketchup. This has everything on it. Also, the fries are cold, and the lid was not on my drink properly. It spilled on me," Marcus explained. He kept his voice calm and friendly. Derek looked at the burger. He looked at Marcus. Then he rolled his eyes. "What do you want me to do about it?" Marcus was surprised by the response. "Could you please remake it correctly? Just cheese and ketchup, and maybe some fresh hot fries?" Derek sighed loudly. He made it seem like Marcus was asking for something impossible. "Man, we are busy. You see how many people are here? I cannot remake everything just because you are picky." "I am not being picky. I just want what I ordered and paid for," Marcus said. He still spoke politely, but his patience was starting to wear thin. Derek leaned on the counter. He looked Marcus up and down. Then he said something that changed everything. "Look at this guy," Derek said loudly to his co-worker. "Comes in here with his wet shirt complaining about a burger. Maybe if you were not so clumsy, your drink would not have spilled. Maybe if you ordered normal food like everyone else, we would not mess it up." The other worker laughed. So did another worker nearby. Even some customers in line started to smile. Marcus felt his face get hot again. But this time it was not from embarrassment. It was from anger. Derek was not just refusing to fix a mistake. He was making fun of Marcus in front of everyone. He was being deliberately cruel. "I just want my order fixed, please," Marcus said quietly. "Fine, fine," Derek said. He took the burger and threw it in a trash can behind him. He grabbed the fries and dumped them in the trash too. Then he yelled to the kitchen, "Remake 73. This guy is being difficult." Marcus stood there. He watched as Derek went back to looking at his phone. The other workers whispered to each other and glanced at Marcus. He could tell they were talking about him. 15 more minutes passed. Marcus stood and waited. He was no longer hungry. He was angry. He was humiliated. But he waited. Finally, someone brought out a new bag. They practically threw it on the counter. Marcus took it without saying anything. He did not check if it was correct. He did not want to give them another reason to mock him. Marcus walked out of the restaurant. He got in his car. He sat there for a moment, holding the bag. His hands shook slightly. Not from fear, from controlled anger. In his line of work, Marcus dealt with dangerous people. Drug dealers, thieves, violent criminals. But he could not touch them outside of official operations. He had to follow the law. He had to follow rules. He had to stay professional. But Derek was not a criminal. Derek was just a cruel person who thought he could treat others badly without consequences. And Marcus had skills. He had training. He had resources. He had time. Marcus started his car. As he drove away, an idea began to form in his mind. It was not illegal. It was not violent. But it would be effective. He would teach Derek and his staff a lesson they would never forget. A lesson about respect. A lesson about consequences. Marcus smiled for the first time that day, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just made a decision. A decision that would change everything for that restaurant. He drove home, already planning his next move. Marcus reached his apartment building just after 2 in the afternoon. He lived on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. The hallway was quiet. Most people were at work. He unlocked his door and went inside. The apartment was small but clean. Marcus kept everything organized. His job required discipline. That discipline carried into every part of his life. He had a couch, a small television, a kitchen table, and a bedroom. Nothing fancy. Nothing that drew attention. He dropped the food bag on the kitchen counter. He had not eaten it. He was no longer hungry. The anger had taken away his appetite. He changed out of his wet shirt and put on a dry one. Then he sat at his kitchen table with his laptop. Marcus opened his computer. He stared at the screen for a moment. Part of him wondered if he was being ridiculous. It was just a bad experience at a fast food restaurant. People had bad experiences every day. Most people just complained to their friends and moved on. But something about this felt different to Marcus. It was not just about the wrong order or the cold fries or the spilled drink. It was about the deliberate cruelty, the mocking, the public humiliation. Derek had enjoyed making Marcus feel small. He had laughed while doing it. He had encouraged others to laugh too. Marcus had spent years facing real dangers. He had been shot at. He had been threatened. He had been in situations where one wrong move could cost him his life. Through all of that, he maintained his composure. He stayed professional. He followed the rules, but Derek thought he was safe. Derek thought he could treat people badly because he stood behind a counter in a uniform. He thought there would be no consequences. He was wrong. Marcus began his research. He typed the name of the restaurant into his search engine. The restaurant was called Burger Zone. It was part of a small regional chain. There were 12 locations across 3 states. The website showed corporate information, franchise details, and a customer service section. He clicked on the customer service page. There was a phone number and an email address. There was also an online complaint form. Marcus read through the form carefully. It asked for detailed information, date and time of visit, location, staff names if known, description of the problem. They even asked for photo evidence if available. Marcus smiled. They wanted detailed complaints. He could give them detailed complaints. Very detailed. Next, he looked up the specific location where he had the bad experience. The address was on Maple Street. He already knew where it was, but he wanted more information. He found their business hours. They opened at 6 in the morning. They closed at 11 at night. 17 hours of operation. He searched for reviews of the location. Many people had complained online. The restaurant had a rating of 2.5 stars out of 5. People mentioned rude staff, wrong orders, long waits, dirty tables. It seemed like the bad service was not new. Derek and his team had been treating customers badly for a long time. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He thought about his options. He could just file a complaint and forget about it. Corporate might send someone to investigate. They might give Derek a warning, or they might do nothing at all. That was not enough. Derek needed to understand what it felt like to be on the other side. He needed to experience real consequences, but Marcus had to be smart about this. He could not do anything illegal. He could not threaten anyone. He could not damage property. Everything he did had to be completely legal. Then the idea came to him. It was perfect. Marcus would become multiple difficult customers. He would use his undercover training to create different personas, different appearances, different voices, different mannerisms. He would visit the restaurant over and over again, each time as a different person, each time making completely reasonable but complicated requests. Nothing he did would be against the rules. Everything would be within the menu options. All substitutions would be allowed. All special requests would be legitimate. But it would be exhausting for the staff. It would slow them down. It would frustrate them. And he would document everything. Every wrong order, every rude response, every mistake. He would take photos. He would save receipts. He would file complaints through proper channels. Corporate would have no choice but to investigate. And Derek would never know it was all the same person. Marcus opened a new document on his computer. He began to plan. He needed to think like an investigator because that was what he was. He started with reconnaissance. He needed to know the restaurant's patterns. He created a schedule. He would visit at different times. Morning rush, lunch rush, afternoon slow period, dinner rush, late night. Each time period would have different staff and different stress levels. He would rotate his visits to avoid patterns. Next, he planned his personas. He had disguises in his apartment. He used them for undercover work, hats, glasses, different jackets. He could change his posture. He could change his walk. He could change his voice. Most people never noticed these small details, but they made someone look completely different. He decided on 5 different characters. First, an elderly man who moved slowly and had trouble hearing. He would need repeated explanations and would ask many questions. Second, a busy businesswoman who was always in a hurry and needed exact timing. Third, A young father with specific allergy concerns who needed detailed information about ingredients. Fourth, a college student who paid with exact change and counted it slowly. Fifth, a foreign tourist who spoke English but sometimes struggled with menu terms. Each character would be polite. Each character would have legitimate reasons for their requests. But each character would be time-consuming and slightly frustrating to serve. And they would all appear during the busiest times. Marcus made notes about each persona. He wrote down the mannerisms he would use, the voice patterns, the typical orders. He wanted consistency within each character. If the elderly man always ordered the same type of thing, it would seem more real. He also researched the menu thoroughly. He found every substitution option, every modification that was allowed, every special request that was within policy. He would use these to create orders that were technically correct, but complicated to prepare. For example, he could order a burger with extra pickles on the side instead of on the burger. He could ask for fries with no salt, but request salt packets separately. He could order a drink with light ice and a specific fill level. All of these were allowed, all of these were reasonable, but they required extra attention and time. Marcus spent 3 hours planning. He created a detailed spreadsheet. It listed each planned visit, which persona he would use, what time he would arrive, and what he would order. He also created a folder on his computer for documentation. He would save every receipt, every photo, and every note. Next, he looked into corporate complaint procedures. He found that complaints could be filed online or by phone. He decided to use both methods. He would spread them out over time. He would make each complaint unique but detailed. He would sound like different people each time. He also researched consumer protection laws. He wanted to make sure everything he did was legal. As a federal agent, he could not break laws, even minor ones. His plan had to be perfect. It had to be foolproof. Marcus read about customer rights. He learned about service standards. He read through Burger Zone's own policies posted on their website. They promised hot, fresh food. They promised accurate orders. They promised friendly service. They had made commitments to their customers. Derek was not keeping those commitments. As the sun began to set outside his window, Marcus felt satisfied with his plan. It was thorough. It was legal. It was ethical in a way. He was not lying about anything. He was not making false complaints. Every issue he would report would be real. Every problem would be genuine. He was just being extremely thorough about documenting them. He thought about Derek's face when he had mocked him. He remembered the laughter from the other workers. He remembered the feeling of humiliation. That feeling fueled his determination. Marcus was good at his job because he was patient. He could watch and wait for weeks or months if needed. He could maintain a cover story for years. This would be easy compared to his real work, and it would be satisfying in a way his real work sometimes was not. In his job, he often had to watch criminals go free because of legal technicalities. He had to see bad people win because of loopholes. But this was different. This was something he could actually complete. This was something where he could see results. He looked at his calendar. Today was Wednesday. He decided to start his campaign on Monday. That gave him 5 days to prepare. 5 days to practice his personas. 5 days to gather any additional materials he needed. Marcus went to his bedroom. He opened his closet. In the back, he had a box of items he used for undercover work. Wigs, fake glasses, different styles of clothing, temporary hair color, a fake mustache that looked surprisingly real, props like a cane or a briefcase or a backpack. He pulled out the box and brought it to his living room. He spent the evening trying different combinations. He practiced the elderly man's walk, slow and careful. He practiced the businesswoman's confident stride. He practiced the young father's nervous energy. He practiced the college student's casual slouch. He practiced the tourist's uncertain movements. For each character, he took photos. He wanted to see what he looked like from different angles. He wanted to make sure each persona looked completely different from the others and from his real appearance. By midnight, Marcus felt ready. He had his plan, he had his schedule, he had his personas. All that was left was to execute. Before going to bed, Marcus did one more thing. He drove back to the Burger Zone location. It was almost closing time. Only a few cars were in the parking lot. He parked across the street where he could see but would not be noticed. He watched. He saw staff members taking out trash. He saw someone mopping floors through the windows. He saw Derek leaving through the back door laughing with another worker. They got into separate cars and drove away. Marcus watched until all the lights went out. Until the last employee left. Until the parking lot was empty. Then he started his car and drove home. As he drove, he thought about the next few weeks. Derek had no idea what was coming. None of them did. They thought they could treat people badly without consequences. They were about to learn differently. Monday morning arrived with clear skies. Marcus woke up at 5:30. He ate breakfast. He did his regular morning routine. Then he prepared for his first visit to Burger Zone. He decided to start with the elderly man persona. This was perfect for the morning time. Many older people ate breakfast early. It would not seem suspicious. Marcus went to his closet. He pulled out gray slacks and a cardigan sweater. He put on a flat cap. He added a pair of thick-rimmed glasses. He had a cane that he sometimes used for undercover work. He took that too. He looked at himself in the mirror. He practiced hunching his shoulders slightly. He made his movements slower. He changed his facial expression to look more tired, more weathered. He looked 20 years older than his real age. Marcus drove to Burger Zone. He parked in the lot. He took a deep breath. Then he got out of the car. He walked slowly toward the entrance, leaning slightly on his cane. He moved the way an elderly person would move, careful with each step. Inside, the restaurant was moderately busy. A few people sat at tables eating breakfast. 3 people stood in line. Marcus joined the line. He stood patiently, both hands resting on his cane. When he reached the counter, a young woman greeted him. Her name tag said Jessica. She smiled at him. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" she asked. Marcus spoke in a slightly shaky voice, higher pitched than his normal voice. "Good morning, young lady. I would like the breakfast sandwich, please." "The sausage, egg, and cheese?" Jessica asked. Marcus leaned forward a little. "I am sorry, dear. Could you speak up? My hearing is not so good." Jessica spoke louder. "The sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich?" "Oh, yes. But could I have bacon instead of sausage? And no cheese, please. I cannot have too much dairy. Doctor's orders, you understand." "Sure, no problem. Anything else?" Marcus appeared to think hard. "Yes, hash browns, please, but not too crispy. My teeth, you see? Not as strong as they used to be. And a coffee, black but not too hot. I have to sip it slowly." Jessica typed the order carefully. She seemed patient, which Marcus appreciated. "Will that be all, sir?" "Oh, and do you have any napkins? Extra napkins? Sometimes I spill." Marcus gave her an embarrassed smile. "Of course. I will put extra in your bag," Jessica said. She told him the total. Marcus pulled out his wallet. He counted out exact change slowly. He picked up each coin carefully, squinting at them. It took almost 2 minutes to count out the correct amount. People behind him in line started shifting impatiently. "Thank you, dear." "You're very kind," Marcus said. He took his receipt and moved to the waiting area. His order took 8 minutes. When they called his number, Marcus walked slowly to pick it up. He opened the bag right there at the counter. "Excuse me, miss," he said to Jessica. "I am sorry to be a bother, but could you check something for me? I asked for the hash browns not too crispy. These look quite brown. Are they crispy?" Jessica looked in the bag. "They might be a little crispy, sir. Would you like me to ask them to make new ones?" "Would that be too much trouble? I really cannot eat hard foods." "No trouble at all. Just give me one moment." Jessica took the hash browns back to the kitchen. Marcus waited. He apologized to the people in line for taking up space at the counter. After 5 minutes, Jessica brought him new hash browns. "These should be softer, sir," she said. Marcus thanked her multiple times. He took his food to a table. He ate slowly. He took out his phone and pretended to have trouble using it, but he was actually taking photos of his receipt and the food. Everything looked correct this time. Jessica had done a good job, but that was fine. Marcus was not here to cause problems for good workers like Jessica. He was here to document everything and to create a pattern. The difficult elderly customer would be memorable, even if there were no problems today. Marcus finished his breakfast. He threw away his trash. He left the restaurant slowly, waving goodbye to Jessica. Once in his car, Marcus made notes on his phone. He recorded the time, the staff member's name, the exact order, and the outcome. Everything was documented. That evening, Marcus returned for dinner. This time, he was the businesswoman. He wore a blazer and dress pants. He had put his hair in a tight bun. He wore different glasses and carried a leather briefcase. He walked quickly with purpose. His entire demeanor was different. The dinner rush was in full swing. The line stretched back to the door. Perfect. When Marcus reached the counter, Derek was working the register. Marcus felt his heart beat faster, but he maintained his composure. Derek did not recognize him at all. How could he? Marcus looked completely different. "What do you want?" Derek asked. His tone was just as rude as before. Marcus spoke in a higher, crisp voice. "I have exactly 7 minutes before my next conference call. I need a burger, no pickles, no onions, light ketchup, extra lettuce, medium fries, well salted, and a diet cola with light ice. Can that be ready in 5 minutes?" Derek looked annoyed. "We will get to it when we get to it." Marcus pulled out her phone and looked at it. "I understand you are busy, but I am asking if it is possible. If not, I will go somewhere else. I have limited time." "Yeah, whatever, we will try," Derek said. He entered the order without much care. Marcus paid with a credit card. She took the receipt. "I need this ready quickly, please. It is important." She moved to the waiting area, but stayed standing, checking her phone constantly. She looked at her watch. She tapped her foot. She looked impatient and stressed. 10 minutes passed. 15 minutes. Finally, her number was called. Marcus walked quickly to the counter. "This took 15 minutes. I was told it would be faster." The worker who handed her the bag just shrugged. Marcus took the bag and immediately checked inside while standing there. The burger was wrong. It had pickles. It had onions. It had regular ketchup, not light. "This is incorrect. I specifically said no pickles, no onions, light ketchup," Marcus said firmly. The worker looked frustrated. "We are busy. Just pick them off." Marcus took out her phone. "I would like this remade correctly, please. I paid for what I ordered." Derek overheard and came over. "What is the problem now?" "My order is wrong. I need it remade," Marcus said. Derek grabbed the burger and looked at it. "It is just pickles and onions. Pick them off. We do not have time to remake everything." Marcus kept her voice professional but firm. "I am a paying customer. I ordered specific items. This is not what I ordered. Please remake it." People in line were watching now. Derek's face turned red. "Fine. Wait over there." Marcus moved aside. She took a photo of the incorrect burger before Derek took it away. She saved the receipt. She noted the time. All evidence was documented. The remade burger took another 8 minutes. By the time Marcus got her correct order, 23 minutes had passed since she ordered. She had missed her fictional conference call. Before leaving, Marcus made sure Derek saw her take a photo of her receipt and the time on her phone. She wanted him to know she was documenting this. Marcus left and sat in her car. She immediately wrote a detailed complaint on the Burger Zone website. She included the date, time, staff names, specific issues, and attached the photo. She described how her order was wrong and how long everything took. She kept the tone professional but disappointed. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus visited the restaurant 12 times. Each time as a different persona. Each time during busy periods. As the young father, he asked detailed questions about ingredients because his fictional child had allergies. He needed to know if there was any dairy cross-contamination. He needed to verify that gloves were changed. Each question was legitimate. Each question took time. The staff grew irritated answering so many questions. As the college student, He paid with a large jar of coins. He counted them out slowly at the counter. He recounted when he was not sure. He apologized, but continued counting. The people behind him in line got angry at the delay. The staff got frustrated. As the foreign tourist, he asked for explanations of menu items. What was the difference between menu options? Which sauce was most popular? Could they recommend something? He spoke clearly, but with an accent. He took time making decisions. He changed his mind twice before ordering. Each visit, Marcus documented everything. Photos of receipts, photos of food, notes about service quality, timestamps, staff names when visible. He was building a detailed record, and he filed complaints. Not after every visit. That would be too obvious, but after every third or fourth visit. He used different email addresses. He called from different phone numbers. He made each complaint sound like a different person. One complaint was formal and professional. Another was emotional and upset. Another was confused and disappointed. The complaints were all legitimate. The service was slow. Orders were often wrong. Staff were frequently rude. Marcus was not lying or exaggerating. He was just making sure every problem was properly reported. Derek and the other staff members started noticing something strange. They seemed to be getting an unusual number of difficult customers. Customers who asked lots of questions. Customers who had complicated orders. Customers who paid slowly. Customers who complained about mistakes. Marcus watched their frustration grow each visit. He heard them complaining to each other. Not another one, someone would say when a complicated order came in. They started to look nervous when anyone approached with special requests. The staff service got worse, not better. The stress made them sloppy. They made more mistakes. They became more impatient. They were rude to regular customers too. This created even more legitimate complaints from real customers who had nothing to do with Marcus. Marcus continued his pattern. Visit, document, complain, repeat. He varied which persona visited when. The elderly man came 3 times during morning hours. The businesswoman came 4 times during lunch and dinner rushes. The young father came twice during mid-afternoon. The college student came twice during dinner. The tourist came once during lunch. To the staff, these all seemed like different problem customers appearing in waves. They had no idea it was the same person. How could they? Each persona looked different, sounded different, and acted different. After 2 weeks and 12 visits, Marcus checked the corporate complaint database online. Burger Zone had a portal where customers could see if their complaints were being reviewed. Using his various account logins, he saw that all his complaints showed as under review or escalated to regional management. Good. Corporate was paying attention. Marcus decided to take a break for a few days. He wanted the staff to feel relief. He wanted them to think the wave of difficult customers was over. Then, when they relaxed, he would return and increase the pressure. On his last visit before the break, he went as himself, his normal appearance. No disguise. He wanted to see if Derek would recognize him. He ordered something simple, just a burger and fries. Derek was at the register. He looked stressed and tired. He took Marcus's order without really looking at him. He did not recognize Marcus at all. Marcus got his food and left. He smiled as he drove away. Derek still had no idea what was happening, no idea who was behind it, no idea that his own cruelty had created this situation, and no idea that it was about to get worse. Phase 2 was about to begin. Derek stood behind the counter during the Monday afternoon shift. The restaurant was quiet for once. Only 2 customers sat at tables. No one stood in line. The lunch rush was over. The dinner rush had not started yet. Derek looked at his coworker, Michelle. She was wiping down the counter. Both of them looked tired. "I swear something weird is going on," Derek said. He kept his voice low. Michelle looked up. "What do you mean?" "The customers lately. Have you noticed? We keep getting all these problem people. People who ask a million questions. People who want everything special. People who count out pennies. It is like they are all coming here on purpose." Michelle shrugged. "It is a restaurant. We always get annoying customers. Not like this. It is different. It is like a pattern or something," Derek insisted. Michelle went back to wiping. You are being paranoid. Derek was not so sure. Something felt off. Over the past 2 weeks, they had received complaint after complaint. Corporate had already called twice. The regional manager had sent emails asking about service issues. Derek himself had been talked to by his district supervisor. The supervisor had asked specific questions. Why were orders taking so long? Why were so many orders incorrect? Why were customers reporting rude service? Derek had made excuses. They were short-staffed. The equipment was old. Customers were being unreasonable. But deep down, Derek knew the truth. He and his team had gotten lazy. They cut corners. They were rude to customers because they thought no one would care. Most people just wanted food and would not complain. Except now people were complaining. A lot of people. And corporate was paying attention. The phone in the back office rang. Derek went to answer it. It was his boss, the district supervisor. "Derek, we need to talk about your location," the supervisor said. His voice was serious. "Yes, sir," Derek replied. "I have been reviewing complaint data. Your location has received 23 complaints in the past 2 weeks. That is more than any other location in the entire region. In fact, that is more than most locations receive in 6 months. What is going on?" Derek felt sweat on his forehead. 23 complaints? He knew there were several, but 23? I'm not sure, sir. We have been getting some difficult customers lately, Derek said. Difficult customers? Derek, these complaints are detailed. Wrong orders, cold food, long wait times, rude staff. Multiple customers mention you by name. This is a serious problem. Derek's stomach dropped. Customers mentioned him by name. "I am sorry, sir. I will do better. We all will." Better is not enough. I am sending Regional Manager Lisa Park to do a surprise inspection sometime this week. She will evaluate everything: staff performance, food quality, cleanliness, customer service. If things do not improve immediately, there will be consequences. Do you understand? Yes, sir, I understand. The supervisor hung up. Derek stood there holding the phone. His hand shook slightly. 23 complaints. An inspection coming. His job might be in danger. He walked back to the front counter. Michelle looked at him. "What is wrong?" "You look sick." "Corporate is sending someone for an inspection because of all the complaints," Derek said. Michelle's eyes widened. "When?" "This week. Could be any day. They said it is a surprise inspection." "What are we supposed to do?" "Be perfect, I guess. No mistakes, no complaints, starting right now." Derek called a quick team meeting in the back. 4 other workers came to listen. Derek explained the situation. Corporate was watching them. An inspector was coming. Everyone needed to be on their best behavior. "So no more messing around," Derek said. "No more being rude to customers. No more wrong orders. We need to be perfect until this inspection is over." The team nodded. They all looked nervous. None of them wanted to lose their jobs. For the rest of the day, the staff worked carefully. They double-checked orders. They were polite to customers. They moved quickly but accurately. Derek watched everyone closely. The next morning, Tuesday, started smoothly. The breakfast rush went well. Orders were correct. Customers seemed happy. Derek began to feel a bit more confident. Then the elderly man came in. Derek did not recognize him. He just saw an old man with a cane walking slowly to the counter. The old man ordered a breakfast sandwich with several modifications. He paid with exact change, counting it out slowly. People in line waited patiently. The order took a few extra minutes because they had to prepare the modifications carefully. But they got it right. The elderly man thanked them and left. Derek felt relieved. They had handled a difficult customer well. 2 hours later, during lunch, a businesswoman came in. She was in a hurry. She ordered a burger with specific modifications and asked if it could be ready in 5 minutes. Derek remembered the supervisor's warning. He told her they would do their best. He put the order in as priority. The kitchen staff worked quickly. They got her order out in 7 minutes. The businesswoman seemed annoyed that it was not 5 minutes, but she took her food and left without complaining. Derek counted that as a win. That evening, a young man who looked like a college student came in. He had a jar of coins. Derek's heart sank, but he remained patient. He waited while the student counted out his payment. It took several minutes, but Derek smiled and thanked him. As the week went on, more unusual customers appeared. A tourist who asked many questions about the menu, a mother with specific allergy concerns, a construction worker who wanted to modify his order in complicated ways. Each customer was technically reasonable. Their requests were within policy. But serving them took extra time and attention, and they kept coming day after day. The staff was getting exhausted. Trying to be perfect for every customer was draining. The stress was building. Small arguments broke out between workers. People called in sick. The schedule became difficult to maintain. By Thursday, Derek was barely sleeping. Every time he heard the door chime announcing a new customer, his stomach tightened. Would this be another difficult person? Would they complain about something? Would this be the inspector? Michelle approached Derek during a quiet moment. "I think someone is messing with us." Derek looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. Right after corporate starts watching us, we suddenly get all these problem customers. Every single day? During the busiest times, that is too much of a coincidence." Derek had been thinking the same thing. But who would do that? And why? "I do not know. Maybe a competitor? Or someone who hates us? But how would they know corporate is watching us? We just found out a few days ago." Michelle did not have an answer for that. Derek started paying closer attention to the difficult customers. He tried to see if there were any patterns. Were they always the same people? They looked different each time. Different ages, different genders, different appearances. But something felt familiar about them. He could not put his finger on what. That evening, Derek stayed late after his shift. He went to the back office where they kept security camera recordings. He started watching footage from the past 2 weeks. He watched the elderly man with the cane. He watched the businesswoman in a hurry. He watched the college student with coins. He watched the tourist with questions. He watched the young father concerned about allergies. They were all different people. Or were they? Derek noticed something. The elderly man and the businesswoman were about the same height. So was the college student, and the tourist, and the father. They all seemed to be roughly the same build, even though they looked different. It was hard to tell for sure. The video quality was not great, and people wore different clothes and carried different items. But Derek felt his suspicion growing. He watched more carefully. He looked at how people moved. The elderly man walked slowly with a cane, but when he bent down to pick something up, he moved smoothly. Too smoothly for someone who really needed a cane. The businesswoman walked with confidence, but something about her posture seemed exaggerated, like she was playing a role. Derek felt cold. Was someone pretending to be different people? Was someone doing this on purpose? But that seemed crazy. Who would do something like that? And why? Then Derek remembered something. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, there was a customer he had been rude to, a man who complained about a wrong order. Derek had made fun of him in front of everyone. The man had left without saying much. Derek had forgotten about it until now. Could that be connected? No, that was ridiculous. The man was just some random customer. Why would he come back multiple times in disguise just to annoy them? That would be insane. That would take planning and effort and time. No normal person would do that over a burger, but the thought stuck in Derek's mind. He tried to remember what the man looked like. Average height, dark hair, normal clothes, nothing special. Derek could not even remember his face clearly. He closed the security footage and turned off the computer. He was being paranoid. Michelle was right about that. This was all just bad luck and bad timing. Friday morning arrived. Derek came to work early. He wanted everything to be perfect in case the inspector showed up. He checked that the restaurant was clean. He made sure supplies were stocked. He reviewed the day's schedule with the staff. The morning shift started normally. A few regular customers came in. Orders went smoothly. Everything seemed fine. Then, at exactly 10 o'clock, a woman walked in. She wore professional clothes and carried a tablet. She looked around the restaurant carefully, making notes. Derek's heart stopped. The inspector had arrived. Lisa Park introduced herself. She was the regional manager. She would be observing for the next few hours. She told Derek to continue normal operations. She would just watch and take notes. Derek felt like he was being watched by a hawk. Every movement felt awkward. Every word felt wrong. He tried to act natural, but he was too nervous. Customers came and went. Lisa watched everything. She watched how staff greeted customers, how they took orders, how they prepared food, how they handled problems. Then, during the lunch rush, the businesswoman came in, the one who was always in a hurry. Derek's hands started to sweat. This was the worst possible timing. The businesswoman ordered a complicated burger with specific modifications. She asked if it could be ready quickly. Derek politely said they would do their best. He entered the order carefully, making sure everything was correct. Lisa Park was standing nearby watching. The kitchen staff worked on the order. They moved quickly but carefully. Derek could see them checking and rechecking. Everyone knew the inspector was there. 7 minutes later, the order was ready. Derek called the number. The businesswoman came to get it. She opened the bag right there and checked inside. The burger was wrong. It had pickles when she asked for no pickles. Derek felt his soul leave his body. The businesswoman held up the burger. "This is incorrect. I specifically said no pickles." Derek wanted to disappear. "I am so sorry. Let me fix that right away." He took the burger back personally. He walked to the kitchen. He asked them to remake it immediately and correctly. He emphasized every detail. While he waited, he could feel Lisa Park watching him, taking notes on her tablet. His career was probably over. 5 minutes later, the remade burger was ready. Derek personally checked it before bringing it to the customer. It was correct this time. "I apologize for the error. Here is your correct order, and please, have this coupon for a free meal next time," Derek said. He kept his voice professional and polite. The businesswoman took the food. She looked at Lisa Park, then back at Derek. "Thank you," she said, and left. Derek turned to Lisa. "I am very sorry you had to see that. It is not usually like this." Lisa made a note on her tablet. "Actually, Derek, from the complaints we have received, it seems like it is exactly like this. Quite often." Derek had no response to that. Lisa continued her inspection for another 2 hours. She found other problems. The ice machine needed cleaning. Some food items were not stored at proper temperatures. The bathroom was not as clean as it should be. Staff members were not wearing proper uniforms. By the time Lisa left, she had filled pages of notes. She told Derek she would compile her report and send it to the district supervisor. Derek would hear about the results soon. After Lisa left, Derek sat in the back office with his head in his hands. He had never felt so defeated. Michelle knocked on the door. "Is it bad?" "It is very bad," Derek said. "What happens now?" "I do not know. I guess we wait to hear from corporate. Probably get fired." The rest of the day dragged on. The staff was quiet and depressed. Everyone knew the inspection had not gone well. As Derek was closing up that night, he thought again about the businesswoman. She had come in right when the inspector was there. Her order had been wrong. It was almost like perfect timing. Too perfect. He shook his head. He was being paranoid again. It was just bad luck. Just another in a series of bad luck. But doubt remained in his mind. Someone was doing this to them. He was sure of it now. He just could not prove it, and he did not know who or why. Derek locked the doors and went to his car. He sat there for a moment before starting the engine. Somewhere out there, someone was laughing at them. Someone who had planned all of this. Someone who was getting revenge. And Derek had no idea who it was. Lisa Park sat in her office on Monday morning. Her desk was covered with papers and reports. She had spent the entire weekend reviewing everything about the Burger Zone location on Maple Street. The inspection had revealed serious problems. The staff was poorly trained. The management was weak. Food safety standards were barely being met. Customer service was far below company expectations. But something else bothered Lisa. Something that did not quite add up. She opened her laptop and pulled up the customer complaint database. 23 complaints in 2 weeks. That was extraordinary. She had been managing Burger Zone locations for 8 years. She had never seen a complaint spike like this. Lisa read through each complaint carefully. They came from different email addresses, different phone numbers, different names. They described different incidents on different days, but they were all extremely detailed. Most customer complaints were short and vague. Food was cold. Service was bad. Order was wrong. Simple statements without much explanation. These complaints were different. Each one included specific times, specific staff names, specific menu items and modifications. Many included photos of receipts. Some included photos of the incorrect food. The complaints were almost professional in quality, like they were written by someone who knew exactly how to document problems. Someone who understood what information would be useful to an investigation. Lisa pulled up the dates and times of the complaints. She cross-referenced them with the security camera footage she had requested from the restaurant. She watched the elderly man ordering his breakfast. She watched the businesswoman rushing through lunch. She watched the college student counting coins. She watched the tourist asking questions. She watched the young father inquiring about allergies. All different people, all with reasonable but time-consuming requests, all during the busiest times of day. Lisa leaned back in her chair. Her instincts told her something was wrong. But what? She called Derek's district supervisor. "I need to talk to you about the Maple Street location," she said. They met in person that afternoon. Lisa brought all her documentation. She laid out the inspection results first. The supervisor looked grim as he read through them. "This is unacceptable," he said. "Derek needs to be put on probation at minimum, possibly terminated." "I agree the performance is poor," Lisa said, "but I want to talk about these complaints first." She showed him the complaint log. She pointed out the unusual detail in each one. She showed him the security footage of the various difficult customers. "Do you notice anything strange?" Lisa asked. The supervisor studied the footage. "They all seem like normal customers. Annoying, but normal. Look closer. Look at their height, their build." The supervisor watched again. His eyes narrowed. They could all be the same height, but that does not mean anything. Lots of people are the same height. True, but look at the timing. Each difficult customer appears during the busiest times. Each one has a complicated but technically reasonable order. Each one takes up significant staff time, and each one either files a complaint or causes a situation that leads to a complaint. The supervisor was quiet for a moment. "You think someone is doing this on purpose?" "I think it is possible, but I cannot prove it. These could all be coincidences, or this location could just be attracting difficult customers because word spread that their service is bad." "What do you want to do?" Lisa thought about it. "I want to proceed with disciplinary action based on the legitimate problems we found. The poor service is real. The wrong orders are real. The food safety issues are real. Derek and his team need to face consequences for that." "But," the supervisor prompted, "but I also want to keep watching this location. If someone is targeting them, I want to know who and why, and I want to make sure that once we improve the service, the problems actually stop." The supervisor agreed. Lisa drafted her official report. She documented all the issues found during the inspection. She recommended that Derek be placed on probation. She recommended mandatory retraining for all staff. She recommended weekly follow-up inspections for the next month. The report was sent to Derek the next day. Derek read the email in disbelief. Probation, retraining, weekly inspections. If he did not improve immediately, he would be terminated. He called an emergency staff meeting. Everyone gathered in the back room. Derek looked at their faces. They all looked worried. "We are all on probation," Derek said. "Corporate is watching us closely. We have weekly inspections for the next month. If we do not improve, they will replace all of us." Michelle spoke up. "What do we need to do?" "Everything perfectly. Every order correct. Every customer treated well. No mistakes, no complaints for at least a month. The team nodded. They understood. Their jobs were on the line. There is something else, Derek said. He hesitated. I think someone might be messing with us. I think someone has been coming here pretending to be different people, making complicated orders, filing complaints, getting us in trouble. The team looked at each other. Who would do that? Someone asked. I do not know, but I have been watching the security footage. Some of these difficult customers seem suspicious. They are all the same height. They move in similar ways. It is like they are the same person in disguise. That is crazy, Michelle said, but she did not sound completely convinced. Maybe, but think about it. Right after I was rude to that customer a few weeks ago, all this started happening. What if it is him? What if he is getting revenge? The team was quiet. The idea seemed impossible, but also somehow plausible. Even if that is true, what can we do about it? Michelle asked. We be perfect. We give no reason for complaints. We make sure every order is correct. We are polite to every customer. If it is the same person coming back, we do not give him anything to complain about. Over the next week, the staff worked harder than they ever had. They double-checked every order. They kept the restaurant spotless. They smiled at every customer. They handled complaints professionally and immediately. Derek watched every customer carefully. He tried to spot anyone suspicious, anyone who might be in disguise. But how could you tell? People wore hats and glasses all the time. People had different styles of walking and talking. How could you identify someone who was trained to disguise themselves? The first weekly inspection happened on Thursday. A different corporate inspector came. She watched their operations for 3 hours. She checked food temperatures. She reviewed order accuracy. She observed customer interactions. The inspection went well. No major problems were found. The inspector noted improvement from the previous week. Derek felt a small amount of relief. But difficult customers still appeared, not as many as before. But they came. An elderly woman with many questions. A businessman who wanted exact specifications. A teenager who changed her order 3 times before committing. Each time, Derek and his team handled it perfectly. They were patient. They were polite. They got the orders right. No one had any legitimate reason to complain. After 2 weeks, the complaints stopped. The corporate database showed no new complaints from the Maple Street location. The weekly inspections continued to show improvement. Derek started to feel cautiously optimistic. Maybe the worst was over. Maybe whoever was targeting them had given up. Maybe they had proven they could do better. But Derek could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every time someone walked in wearing glasses or a hat, his heart raced. Every time someone asked for modifications, he wondered if this was the person who had orchestrated everything. Lisa Park reviewed the data from her office. The improvement was real. Complaints had stopped. Inspections were positive. Staff performance was much better, but she still wondered about those first few weeks, about the pattern of difficult customers, about the professionally documented complaints. She pulled up the security footage one more time. She watched each of the suspicious customers again. She studied their movements frame by frame. There was something about the elderly man. The way he stood up from his chair. The movement was too smooth, too fluid for someone who needed a cane. There was something about the businesswoman. Her confident walk seemed almost exaggerated, like an actor playing a role. There was something about all of them, small details that did not quite fit. Lisa made a note in her private files. She labeled it, "Possible targeted harassment. Requires monitoring." She did not include it in official reports. She had no proof, just suspicions. But she would keep watching. If this happened again at another location, she would know what to look for. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in his apartment. He had not visited Burger Zone in over a week. His mission was essentially complete. Corporate had investigated. The staff had been disciplined. Service had improved. He reviewed his documentation one final time. Photos of receipts, records of complaints filed, notes from each visit. Everything was organized and saved. He had made his point. Derek and his team had learned that actions have consequences. They had learned to treat customers with respect, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Marcus felt satisfied with the outcome. He had used his skills legally and ethically. He had not lied. He had not made false complaints. Every problem he reported was real. He had just been very thorough about documenting them, but there was still one thing left to do. Marcus wanted Derek to know. Not officially, not in a way that could get Marcus in trouble. But he wanted Derek to understand that the random customer he mocked 3 weeks ago was not so random. That customer had power. That customer had skills. That customer had taught Derek a lesson. Marcus began planning his final visit. This time, he would not be in disguise. He would go as himself. He would order something simple. He would see if Derek recognized him. And he would leave a message, nothing threatening, nothing that could be used against him. Just something that would make Derek think, something that would make Derek wonder. Marcus looked at himself in the mirror. No disguises, just him. Marcus Chen, federal agent, and the customer who refused to be disrespected. He smiled. Tomorrow he would make his final visit to Burger Zone. Derek stood at the counter during the Tuesday afternoon shift. The restaurant was moderately busy. Nothing they could not handle. The team worked smoothly. Orders were correct. Customers seemed happy. Then the door opened. A man walked in. Average height, dark hair, normal clothes. He looked familiar somehow. The man joined the line. He waited patiently. When he reached the counter, he looked directly at Derek. "Hello?" the man said. His voice was calm and polite. Derek stared at him. Something about this man, something familiar, but he could not place it. "Hi. What can I get for you?" Derek asked. He kept his voice professional. "Just a cheeseburger and fries, please. Nothing special." Derek entered the order. The man paid with a credit card. Derek glanced at the name on the card, Marcus Chen. The name meant nothing to Derek, but the face. He had seen this face before. Marcus took his receipt. "Thank you," he said. He moved to the waiting area. Derek watched him from the corner of his eye. Where had he seen this man before? Then it hit him. 3 weeks ago. The customer he had been rude to. The customer whose order was wrong. The customer he had mocked in front of everyone. Derek felt his blood turn cold. Marcus's order was ready quickly. The staff had prepared it perfectly. Marcus checked it. Everything was correct. He looked satisfied. Before leaving, Marcus walked back to the counter. Derek tensed. "Everything okay with your order?" Derek asked nervously. "Perfect. Much better than last time I was here," Marcus said. Last time. So he did remember. He was the same person. Marcus reached into his pocket. Derek's heart pounded. What was he going to do? Marcus pulled out a business card. He placed it on the counter. On the card was printed, "A customer who believes in respectful service." "I wanted you to have this," Marcus said, "as a reminder." Derek picked up the card. His hands shook slightly. "I do not understand," Derek said. Marcus smiled. It was not a mean smile, but it was not friendly either. It was knowing, like he had a secret. "I think you do," Marcus said. "Think about the past few weeks. Think about all the difficult customers. Think about all the complaints. Think about patterns." Derek's eyes widened. "That was you? All of it?" Marcus did not confirm or deny. "Every visit I made was legitimate. Every complaint I filed was real. Every problem I reported actually happened. I did not lie. I did not break any rules. I just documented everything very carefully." "Why?" Derek asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "Because actions have consequences. Because how you treat people matters. Because someone needed to teach you that lesson." Marcus picked up his food. "Enjoy the rest of your day, Derek." Marcus walked out of the restaurant. Derek stood frozen behind the counter. He looked at the business card in his hand. Michelle came over. What was that about? Derek could not speak. He just showed her the card. A customer who believes in respectful service, Michelle read. Her face went pale. Was that him? The guy you were mean to? Derek nodded slowly. And all those difficult customers? Were him, in disguise. It was all him. The team gathered around. Derek explained what had just happened. They looked at each other in shock and disbelief. Someone had spent weeks targeting them. Someone had used professional skills to document every mistake. Someone had gotten them in trouble with corporate, all because of one moment of cruelty. What do we do? Someone asked. Derek looked at the card again. Nothing. What can we do? He did not break any laws. He was just a very thorough customer. An extremely thorough customer. Do we tell corporate? Michelle asked. And say what? That we think one customer came back multiple times in disguise to file legitimate complaints? They would think we were crazy. Or worse, they would think we were making excuses for bad service. Derek was right. They had no proof. Just suspicions. And even if they had proof, what would it matter? The complaints were real. The problems were real. Their bad service was real. They had been caught. They had been punished. They had been taught a lesson, and they would never forget it. Derek sat in his car in the parking lot after his shift ended. The business card lay on the dashboard in front of him. He had been staring at it for 10 minutes. A customer who believes in respectful service. Such simple words, but they carried so much weight, so much meaning, so much shame. Derek thought back to that day 3 weeks ago. He barely remembered it clearly. Just another customer. Just another complaint. Just another opportunity to feel superior for a moment. To get a laugh from his coworkers. To make someone feel small. He had not thought about consequences. He had not considered that the customer might be a real person with feelings, with skills, with the ability to respond. Derek had just assumed that the customer would leave and forget about it. That is what most people did. But Marcus Chen had not forgotten, and he had not let it go. Derek picked up his phone. He searched online for the name Marcus Chen. He found several people with that name. A doctor, a professor, a businessman, an artist. But no clear match to the man who had been in the restaurant. What did Marcus do for a living? How did he have the skills to disguise himself so well? How did he know how to document everything so professionally? How did he know exactly what would get corporate attention? These were not the skills of a normal person. This was someone trained, someone professional, someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Derek thought about the disguises. The elderly man had fooled him completely. So had the businesswoman. So had all the others. That took talent. That took practice. That took resources. Who was Marcus Chen really? Derek started his car and drove home. His apartment was small and messy. Dirty dishes in the sink. Clothes on the floor. Empty fast food containers on the coffee table. He looked around and felt disgusted with himself. When had he become this person? When had he started treating people badly? When had he stopped caring about doing a good job? Derek remembered starting at Burger Zone 4 years ago. He had been excited then. It was his first management position. He wanted to do well. He wanted to make customers happy. He wanted to run a good restaurant. But over time, the job wore him down. Difficult customers, low pay, long hours, disrespectful teenage workers, pressure from corporate. He became bitter. He became lazy. He stopped trying. And he took his frustration out on customers. People who could not fight back. People who just wanted food. People like Marcus Chen. Derek lay in bed that night but could not sleep. His mind kept replaying everything. The complaints. The inspection. The difficult customers who were all the same person. Marcus's final visit and the business card. He felt humiliated. But more than that, he felt ashamed. Because Marcus was right. Derek had been disrespectful. Derek had been cruel. Derek had deserved what happened. The next morning, Derek arrived at work early. He called a staff meeting before the restaurant opened. Everyone gathered in the back room. They looked nervous. They thought Derek was going to yell at them. Instead, Derek apologized. "I owe you all an apology," he said. "I have been a bad manager. I have set a bad example. I have encouraged bad behavior. The way we have been treating customers is my fault. I take responsibility for it." The team looked surprised. "That customer yesterday, Marcus Chen, he was right to do what he did. We deserved it. I deserved it. We were treating people badly and someone finally held us accountable." Michelle spoke up. "What are you saying?" "I am saying we need to change. Really change. Not just for the next few weeks until corporate stops watching, but permanently. We need to treat this job with respect. We need to treat customers with respect. We need to treat each other with respect." Derek pulled out the business card. He taped it to the wall in the back room where everyone could see it. "This is our new standard, a customer who believes in respectful service. That is what we should believe too, every single day." The team was quiet. Some looked thoughtful. Others looked skeptical. But no one argued. "Starting today, we do better. We do not just avoid complaints. We actively try to make customers happy. We take pride in our work. We become the kind of place we would want to eat at ourselves." Over the next few days, something changed at the Burger Zone on Maple Street. The change was small at first. Derek smiled at customers. He thanked them genuinely. He fixed mistakes without complaining. He encouraged his team to do the same. Michelle noticed the difference. She started taking more care with orders. She made sure food was hot and fresh. She treated difficult customers with patience instead of irritation. One by one, the other staff members followed. Not because they were being watched, but because the culture was changing. Because they saw Derek changing and it made them want to change too. A regular customer noticed. She was an elderly woman who came in twice a week for breakfast. She had complained before about cold food and slow service. This week her food was hot. Her order was correct. The staff was friendly. "Whatever you all are doing differently, keep doing it," she said to Derek. "This is the best experience I have had here in months." Derek felt something he had not felt in years. Pride. Actual pride in his work. But he also felt curious. He could not stop thinking about Marcus Chen. Who was he really? What did he do that gave him those skills? During a slow afternoon, Derek did more searching online. He tried different searches. Marcus Chen plus federal agent. Marcus Chen plus investigator. Marcus Chen plus undercover. Nothing came up. Marcus was good at keeping his identity private. Or Derek was searching for the wrong thing. Derek tried searching for news about undercover agents. He found articles about federal agents who worked undercover operations, who infiltrated criminal organizations, who spent months or years pretending to be someone else. Those agents had training, special training in disguise, in changing their appearance and mannerisms, in blending into different environments, in documenting evidence professionally. A crazy thought entered Derek's mind. What if Marcus was a federal agent? What if that was his actual job? What if Derek had been rude to someone with professional training and exactly the skills needed to execute revenge perfectly? Derek laughed out loud at the absurdity. But then he stopped laughing, because it actually made sense. It explained everything. The disguises, the documentation, the professional quality of the complaints, the calm, controlled way Marcus had delivered his final message. Derek had not just insulted a random customer. He had insulted someone who had the skills and resources to respond in the most effective way possible. Someone who knew exactly how to work within the system to achieve results. If that was true, Derek was lucky. Marcus could have done much worse. He could have filed false reports. He could have spread lies online. He could have damaged the restaurant in ways that could not be fixed. Instead, Marcus had simply documented real problems. He had used the official complaint system. He had forced corporate to see what was really happening. He had taught Derek a lesson without breaking any laws or crossing any ethical lines. It was almost respectful in a way. Marcus had not destroyed Derek, he had corrected him. Like a teacher correcting a student. Firm, but fair. Derek looked at the business card on the wall. He made a decision. He would not try to find out more about Marcus. He would not try to investigate or contact him. He would simply accept the lesson and move forward. That Friday, during the weekly corporate inspection, the inspector noted continued improvement. Orders were accurate. Food was fresh. Customers were happy. The inspector told Derek that if this continued for 2 more weeks, he would be taken off probation. Derek thanked the inspector. After she left, he gathered his team. "We are doing well. Corporate is happy, but I do not want us to just be good enough to avoid punishment. I want us to be actually good, to be proud of what we do here." The team agreed. They were starting to feel it too. The satisfaction of doing good work, the positive feedback from happy customers, the sense that they mattered. Michelle approached Derek privately. "I have been thinking about that Marcus guy, what he did. It was kind of genius, you know?" Derek nodded. "It was effective, that is for sure." "Do you think he does this kind of thing a lot? Like goes around teaching rude people lessons?" "I do not know. Maybe. Or maybe we were special. Maybe we were bad enough that he felt we needed it." "Are you glad he did it?" Michelle asked. Derek thought about the question. Was he glad? He had been humiliated, put on probation, almost lost his job. It had been stressful and frightening. But he was a better manager now. The restaurant was better. The staff was better. Customers were happier. He had learned something important. "Yes," Derek said finally. "I am glad. I needed to learn this lesson." We all did. 2 weeks later, Derek received an email from corporate. He was officially off probation. The weekly inspections would stop. The Maple Street location was back in good standing. Derek printed the email and posted it in the back room next to the business card. 2 pieces of paper, one representing success, one representing the lesson that led to that success. One afternoon, during a quiet moment, an elderly man came in. Derek felt his heart skip. Was this Marcus in disguise again? Had he come back? But no, this was a real elderly man. Derek could tell. The man genuinely moved slowly. He genuinely struggled to hear. There was no smooth fluidity beneath the appearance. Derek helped the man patiently. He spoke clearly. He explained the menu. He made sure the man understood his options. He prepared the order carefully and brought it to the man's table. "Thank you, young man," the elderly man said. "You have been very kind." Derek felt warmth in his chest. This was what customer service should be. This was what he should have been doing all along. As weeks turned into months, the improvement at Burger Zone became permanent. It was not just about following rules to avoid punishment. It became part of the culture. The staff started taking pride in their work. They started caring about customers as real people, not just obstacles to deal with. New employees were trained in this culture from day one. Derek told them the story. Not all the details, but enough. He told them about a customer who had taught them an important lesson, about how respect matters, about how actions have consequences. The business card stayed on the wall. It became a symbol, a reminder. Some staff members did not know the full story behind it, but they knew it was important to Derek, and they knew it represented the standards they were expected to meet. Derek never saw Marcus Chen again. He sometimes wondered what Marcus was doing, if he was working on important cases, if he was catching criminals, if he was making the world a better place in other ways. Derek hoped Marcus knew that his lesson had worked, that it had created real change, that the time and effort he put into his elaborate plan had not been wasted. One day, Derek was training a new employee. The young man was enthusiastic but inexperienced. He made mistakes. He got frustrated when customers were difficult. "Why do we have to be so nice to everyone?" the new employee asked. "Some customers are just annoying." Derek thought about how to respond. He could just say it was company policy. He could just say they would get in trouble if they were not nice. But that was not the real answer. "Because customers are people," Derek said. "They come here because they need something. Food, a break, A moment of kindness. We have the power to make their day a little better or a little worse. We should choose to make it better. But what if they are rude to us first? Then we show them how it is supposed to be done. We set the example. We do not respond to rudeness with more rudeness. That just makes everything worse. The new employee nodded slowly. I guess that makes sense. Derek pointed to the business card on the wall. See that? That is from a customer who taught me this lesson the hard way. I was rude, I was disrespectful, and I paid a price for it. I do not want you to make the same mistakes I made. What did the customer do? Derek smiled. Let us just say he was very creative and very thorough. He made sure I understood that actions have consequences, and I am grateful to him for it, even though it was hard at the time. The new employee looked curious but did not push for more details. Just remember, Derek said, treat every customer like they might be someone important. Because they are. They are important to themselves, they are important to their families, and they should be important to us. That is what this job is really about. As Derek went back to work, he felt at peace. He had been changed by his encounter with Marcus Chen, changed for the better. He had learned respect. He had learned accountability. He had learned that how you treat people really does matter. And somewhere out there, Marcus Chen was living his life, fighting crime, working undercover, making the world safer. But he had also taken time to teach one rude fast food manager a lesson. Derek would never forget that lesson, and he would make sure his team never forgot it either. The business card would stay on the wall as long as Derek worked there. A permanent reminder of the day he learned that every person deserves respect. Even the ones you think cannot fight back, especially those ones. 3 months had passed since Marcus Chen had walked into Burger Zone and left his business card with Derek. Marcus had moved on to other cases, other investigations, other undercover operations. The incident at the fast food restaurant was just a memory now. An interesting story he sometimes thought about but rarely discussed. Marcus was currently working on a fraud case. He spent his days reviewing financial documents and interviewing witnesses. It was tedious work, but important. Unlike the Burger Zone situation, this required months of careful investigation. No quick results. No immediate satisfaction. Sometimes, during lunch breaks, Marcus thought about stopping by Burger Zone to see if the changes had lasted. But he decided against it. His message had been delivered. What Derek did with that message was Derek's choice. Marcus could not control that. Besides, showing up again might seem like harassment. Marcus had made his point. Going back would serve no purpose except satisfying his curiosity. Better to leave it alone. What Marcus did not know was that his actions had created ripples that spread far beyond that single restaurant. Derek had indeed changed. The transformation was real and lasting. But he had not kept the story to himself. He had shared it carefully with other managers in the Burger Zone chain. It started at a regional managers meeting. Derek was attending along with 11 other location managers. They met quarterly to discuss performance, share best practices, and review company policies. During a break, Derek was talking with 2 other managers, Jennifer and Robert. They were complaining about difficult customers and how corporate expected too much. I used to think the same way, Derek said, but I learned a hard lesson about that a few months ago. Jennifer looked interested. What happened? Derek told them the story. He kept Marcus's name private. He kept the details vague enough to protect everyone's privacy, but he told them the essential truth. I was rude to a customer, really rude. Made fun of him in front of everyone. He left, and I thought that was the end of it. But he came back, over and over, in different disguises, making complicated orders, documenting every mistake we made, filing detailed complaints. Robert's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely serious. He got corporate to investigate us. I almost lost my job. We were put on probation. It was the most stressful month of my life. How did you find out it was the same person? Jennifer asked. He came back one final time, as himself. He told me. Not directly, but he made it clear. He left me a business card that said, a customer who believes in respectful service. The other managers were silent, absorbing the story. "The thing is," Derek continued, "he was right. We were treating people badly. We deserved what happened, and it made us better. Our location has the highest customer satisfaction scores in the region now. We have almost no complaints. Our team actually takes pride in their work." Jennifer shook her head in amazement. "Who was this customer? What did he do for a living?" "I do not know for sure, but based on his skills, I think he might have been some kind of federal agent or investigator, someone with professional training in undercover work. That is just my guess, though." Robert laughed nervously. "That is terrifying. Imagine being rude to someone and not knowing they have those kinds of skills." "That is the point, though," Derek said. "You should not be rude to anyone. You never know who someone is. You never know what they are capable of. But more importantly, everyone deserves basic respect, whether they can fight back or not." The story spread. Jennifer told it to her assistant manager. Robert mentioned it during a training session at his location. Other managers at the meeting overheard parts of the conversation and asked Derek for details. Within a month, the story had reached most of the Burger Zone locations in the region. It became a cautionary tale, a reminder, a teaching tool. Managers told it to their teams. Treat every customer well. You never know who they might be. There was this one location where a guy came back in disguise over and over just to document their bad service. Got the whole team in trouble. The story grew in the telling. Some versions were exaggerated. Some versions added details that were not true. But the core message remained consistent. Respect customers. Actions have consequences. Lisa Park, the regional manager, heard the story from multiple sources. She was not surprised. She had suspected something similar when she investigated the Maple Street location. She had her own suspicions about Marcus Chen, though she kept them to herself. Lisa saw the positive impact the story was having. Other locations were improving their service. Complaint numbers were down across the region. Customer satisfaction scores were rising. She decided to make it official. Not the story exactly, but the lesson. She added a new section to manager training. It was called Accountability and Customer Relations. The training included case studies. One case study was about a restaurant that experienced a spike in complaints and how they turned it around. The case study was based on Derek's location, though names and details were changed. This restaurant was struggling. The training materials read. Complaints were high, service was poor, staff morale was low. Then they received a wake-up call. A series of detailed complaints forced corporate to investigate. The investigation revealed serious problems, but instead of giving up, the management team chose to change. They improved their service. They built a culture of respect. Now they are one of the top-performing locations in the company. The training asked managers to consider, what can we learn from this? How can we avoid reaching this point? How can we maintain high standards consistently? It was effective. Managers took it seriously. They shared the lessons with their teams. The ripple effect continued. But the story did not stay within Burger Zone. It spread beyond the company. Derek's cousin worked in retail. During a family dinner, Derek told him about what had happened. His cousin was fascinated. He shared the story with his co-workers at the electronics store where he worked. Michelle, one of Derek's staff members, told her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a server at a restaurant. He told his fellow servers. The story spread through the local service industry community. Each telling carried the same basic message. Treat customers with respect. You never know who they are. You never know what they might do if you treat them badly. Actions have consequences. The story took on an almost mythical quality. Did you hear about the customer who came back in disguise? People would ask. The one who got an entire restaurant investigated? Some people admired Marcus, seeing him as a hero who stood up against bad service. Others thought he went too far, that his actions were excessive. But everyone agreed on one thing. It made them think twice about how they treated customers. Marcus remained completely unaware of all this. He continued his work as a federal agent. He investigated serious crimes. He worked undercover on dangerous cases. The Burger Zone incident was a tiny blip in his life, forgotten in the face of more important matters. One evening, Marcus stopped at a different fast food restaurant. Not Burger Zone, A different chain. He was tired after a long day. He just wanted a quick meal. He placed his order. The young man behind the counter was polite and efficient. The food came out quickly and correctly. When Marcus said thank you, the young man smiled genuinely. "No problem, sir. Have a great evening," the young man said. As Marcus ate his meal, he thought about how good service should be this normal, this easy, this consistent. He did not know that his actions months ago had contributed to a small cultural shift in how service workers in his city thought about their jobs. Meanwhile, back at the Burger Zone on Maple Street, Derek was training another new employee. The restaurant had low turnover now. People wanted to work there. The positive culture made it a desirable place to be employed. "Why is that card on the wall?" the new employee asked, pointing to the business card. Derek smiled. He had answered this question many times now. "That is from a very important customer. Someone who taught me a valuable lesson about respect and accountability." "What kind of lesson?" "The kind that changed how I think about this job. The kind that made me a better manager and a better person. Someday, if you stick around, I will tell you the whole story." The new employee nodded, curious but willing to wait. Derek looked around the restaurant. Clean floors, organized counters, staff members working efficiently and professionally, customers sitting at tables, eating food that was hot and fresh and made correctly. This was what success looked like. Not just meeting corporate standards, but actually running a place he could be proud of. A place where people were treated well, both employees and customers, all because one customer refused to accept disrespect. One customer who had the skills and determination to teach an important lesson. One customer who could have destroyed them, but chose to correct them instead. Derek would be forever grateful for that. Even though it had been painful at the time. Even though he had been terrified and humiliated. It had been exactly what he needed. In another part of the city, Lisa Park was preparing a presentation for the company's annual leadership conference. She had been asked to speak about customer service excellence and culture change. She decided to include Derek's story, not with names, not with identifying details, but the essential narrative. She would tell the story of a location that hit rock bottom and found its way back up. A location that learned to value respect and accountability. The catalyst for change came from an unexpected source, her presentation would say. A customer who refused to accept poor service. This customer did not just complain and leave. They took action, legal action, ethical action, but decisive action. And it worked. Lisa would go on to explain the importance of listening to customer feedback, the importance of maintaining standards, the importance of treating every interaction as an opportunity to build trust or lose it. She hoped other Burger Zone locations would learn from Derek's experience. She hoped they would improve before they needed their own wake-up call. She hoped the story would inspire better service across the entire company. What Lisa did not know was that representatives from other restaurant chains would be at the conference. They would hear the story. They would take it back to their own companies. The ripple effect would continue to spread. Within a year, the story of the customer who came back in disguise would become a well-known cautionary tale in the service industry. It would be told in training sessions, discussed in online forums, referenced in articles about customer service. The details would vary. Some versions would be more accurate than others, but the core message would remain consistent across all tellings. Treat people with respect. Actions have consequences. You never know who your customers really are. And at the center of it all was Marcus Chen, completely unaware that his personal response to being disrespected had become a widespread lesson. He would never know that his elaborate plan had inspired thousands of service workers to think differently about their jobs. Marcus would continue his work as a federal agent. He would face real criminals. He would solve important cases. He would make meaningful contributions to public safety. The Burger Zone incident would remain a minor footnote in his life. A time when he used his professional skills for personal reasons. A time when he proved to himself that even small injustices could be addressed. A time when he taught someone a lesson they needed to learn. But for Derek, for the Burger Zone staff, for the managers who heard the story, for the service workers across the industry who were influenced by it, Marcus Chen became something more. He became a symbol a reminder, a legend. The customer who would not forget. The customer who would not forgive without teaching a lesson. The customer who proved that respect is not optional. The customer who showed that even people with no apparent power can have tremendous impact if they have the skills and determination to use it. Derek looked at the business card one more time before heading home. A customer who believes in respectful service. Such simple words, such profound impact. Derek wondered if Marcus Chen knew what he had started, if he understood that his actions had changed not just one restaurant, but influenced an entire industry's conversation about customer service. Derek hoped that wherever Marcus was, whatever he was doing, he felt satisfied with the outcome. He had earned that satisfaction. He had made the world a little bit better, one lesson at a time, and Derek would spend the rest of his career making sure that lesson continued to matter, that it continued to influence how people treated each other, that Marcus Chen's message lived on long after the specific incident was forgotten. Respect matters. Actions have consequences. Treat people well not because you fear what they might do, but because it is the right thing to do. That was the lesson. That was the legacy. And it would endure. 1 year had passed since the day Marcus Chen walked into Burger Zone and changed everything. The seasons had cycled through. Winter had turned to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall, and fall to winter again. Life had moved forward for everyone involved. Marcus sat in a coffee shop near his apartment. He was off duty for the day. A rare occurrence. His work as a federal agent kept him busy most of the time, but today he had a few hours to himself. He sipped his coffee and looked out the window at the people walking by. Each person had their own story, their own struggles, their own moments of being treated well or badly by others. Marcus thought about his own actions over the past year, the serious cases he had worked, the criminals he had helped catch, the lives he had helped save or improve. Important work, meaningful work. But he also thought about the small things, the brief interactions, the moments of courtesy or rudeness, the times when people showed respect or disrespect to each other and to him. He thought about Burger Zone. He wondered if the changes had lasted. He wondered if Derek was still there. He wondered if the staff still remembered the lesson. Marcus had not gone back. He had thought about it many times, but always decided against it. What would be the point? If the changes had lasted, great. If they had not, there was nothing more he could do about it. He had delivered his message. The rest was up to them. What Marcus did not know, sitting in that coffee shop, was that his actions had created a legacy far beyond what he had intended. The story had spread. The lesson had multiplied. The impact had grown exponentially. At the Burger Zone on Maple Street, Derek arrived for his shift. He had been promoted. He was no longer just the shift manager. He was now the general manager of the location. His success in turning around the restaurant's performance had been noticed by corporate. The business card was still on the wall. Derek had moved it to a frame. It hung in the employee break room where everyone could see it. New employees asked about it. Longtime employees knew the story by heart. Derek's location had become the model for the region. Other managers visited to see how they maintained such high service standards. Derek welcomed them. He showed them the systems they had put in place, the training methods they used, the culture they had built. But he always made sure to tell them the story behind the business card, because the systems and methods were not what made the real difference. The culture was what mattered, and the culture had been born from a hard lesson about respect and accountability. We learned the hard way, Derek would tell visiting managers. We learned that how you treat people really matters, not just because it affects your reviews or your job security, but because it is the right thing to do. Because people deserve respect, because actions have consequences. Michelle was still working at the location. She had been promoted to assistant manager. She helped Derek maintain the culture. She trained new employees with the same lessons she had learned. I remember when we were terrible, Michelle told a new trainee one afternoon. We were rude. We were careless. We thought customers were just annoying obstacles between us and the end of our shift. But someone showed us we were wrong. Someone made us face the consequences of our behavior. The person on that business card? the trainee asked, pointing to the framed card. Yes, he could have just complained and left, but he did more than that. He made sure we really learned, he made sure we changed. And I am grateful for that now, even though I was angry at the time. The trainee looked at the card with new respect. It must have been scary when you realized what was happening. It was terrifying, Michelle admitted, but it was also necessary. We needed that wake-up call. We would have just kept getting worse otherwise. Across town, Lisa Park was preparing for another leadership conference. This time, she had been asked to write an article for a service industry magazine. The article would be about culture change and accountability in customer service. She wrote about Derek's location without using real names. She wrote about how poor service can become normalized, how staff can lose sight of their purpose, how a single incident can serve as a catalyst for transformation. Change is possible, Lisa wrote, but it often requires a shock to the system. This location received that shock in the form of a very determined customer, someone who refused to accept poor service, someone who took legal, ethical, but decisive action to force accountability. Lisa included recommendations for other managers, how to build a culture of respect, how to maintain standards, how to listen to feedback, how to train staff effectively. But she also included a warning. Do not wait for your own wake-up call. Do not wait until a customer decides to teach you this lesson the hard way. Choose to do better now. Choose to treat people with respect now. Choose to take pride in your work now. The article would be published in 2 months. It would be read by thousands of service industry professionals. The story would spread even further. In a training room across the city, a different restaurant chain was conducting orientation for new employees. The trainer, a middle-aged woman named Carol, was discussing customer service expectations. Let me tell you a story, Carol said. It is a true story, though I do not know all the details. It is about a fast food restaurant where the staff were rude to a customer. Just one customer. One time. But that customer decided to do something about it. The new employees listened as Carol told the story. Her version was different from the original. Some details had changed in the multiple retellings, but the essence remained the same. The customer came back again and again in different disguises, Carol explained. Each time he documented every problem, every mistake, every rude comment. He filed detailed complaints. He got the whole restaurant investigated. The staff almost lost their jobs. One of the new employees raised her hand. Is that even legal? Completely legal, Carol said. He did not lie. He did not make false accusations. He just documented real problems very thoroughly. That is the scary part. And the important part. You should not be rude to customers because it is wrong, not because you fear they might fight back. But this story reminds us that sometimes they can fight back. And when they do, it can have serious consequences. The training continued with role-playing exercises. How to handle difficult customers. How to resolve complaints. How to maintain professionalism under stress. But the story stayed with the new employees. They would remember it. They would think of it when they felt tempted to be rude. They would ask themselves, what if this customer is the one who fights back? Marcus finished his coffee and left the shop. He walked through the city observing people as he always did. His training made him notice details others missed. The way people carried themselves, the interactions between strangers, the small moments of kindness or cruelty. He passed by a different fast food restaurant. Through the window, he saw a worker apologizing to a customer about a mistake. The worker looked genuinely sorry. The customer looked understanding. They resolved it quickly and politely. Both smiled. Marcus smiled too. Good service should be normal. Respect should be standard. That brief interaction was exactly how things should work. He continued walking. He thought about his job, the serious work he did, the dangerous criminals he faced, the complex investigations he conducted. That was his real contribution to society. That was what mattered. The Burger Zone incident had been personal, a moment when he let his emotions drive his actions. He had been angry about being disrespected. He had wanted to teach a lesson, and he had, effectively and thoroughly. But Marcus also knew he could not go around teaching lessons to everyone who was rude. That was not his job. That was not a good use of his time. The Burger Zone situation had been unique, a combination of circumstances that allowed him to take action. Most of the time, you had to let rudeness go. You had to be the bigger person. You had to move on. Marcus understood that. He practiced that. The Burger Zone incident was an exception, not his standard response to poor service. Still, he did not regret it. Derek had needed that lesson. The staff had needed it. And based on the business card he had left, Marcus hoped the lesson had taken root, hoped it had created lasting change. Marcus had no way of knowing just how much change it had created. He could not see the ripples spreading through the service industry. He could not hear the conversations in training rooms. He could not read the articles being written. He could not know that his name had become attached to an industry-wide cautionary tale, and perhaps that was for the best. Marcus was not seeking fame or recognition. He was not trying to become a symbol. He had simply been a customer who refused to accept disrespect and had the means to do something about it. That evening, Marcus returned to his apartment. He had paperwork to review for an upcoming case, real criminal work, important work. He settled at his desk and opened the files. As he worked, his phone buzzed. A text from a colleague. "Want to grab dinner tomorrow? That new Thai place?" Marcus replied, "Sure, what time?" "6 work?" "Perfect." Simple interaction. Easy communication. The foundation of how people should treat each other, with basic respect and consideration. Marcus got back to work on his case files. The Burger Zone incident did not cross his mind again that night. It was in the past, a closed chapter, done. But for Derek, the chapter remained open. The lesson remained active. The impact continued. Derek stood in the restaurant after closing time. Everyone else had gone home. He was doing a final check before locking up. Everything was clean. Everything was in order. Everything was as it should be. He looked at the framed business card on the wall. He walked over and took it down. He held it in his hands, reading the words for the 1,000th time. A customer who believes in respectful service. Derek thought about the person behind those words. Marcus Chen, the man who had turned Derek's world upside down, the man who had forced Derek to change, the man who had, in a strange way, saved Derek's career and possibly his character. "Thank you," Derek said quietly to the empty room. "Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thank you. You were right. I needed to learn this. We all did." Derek put the card back on the wall. He turned off the lights and locked the door. As he drove home, Derek thought about the future. He had plans to open his own restaurant someday. Not a franchise, his own place. A place where respect and quality would be built into the foundation. Where every employee would understand from day one that how you treat people matters. He would tell new employees the story. He would share the lesson. He would make sure Marcus Chen's message continued to spread, even if Marcus never knew about it. That was Derek's way of repaying the lesson, by learning from it, by improving because of it, by passing it on to others. In different parts of the city, in different restaurants and stores and service businesses, other people were having similar thoughts. People who had heard the story. People who had been influenced by it. People who approached their work differently because of a lesson that had started with one rude interaction and one determined customer. The ripples continued to spread. The impact continued to grow. The lesson continued to matter. Marcus Chen, federal agent, had no idea he had become a legend in the service industry. He would have been surprised to learn about it. Perhaps embarrassed, perhaps amused, perhaps satisfied. But it did not matter if he knew. The lesson existed independently of him now. It had taken on a life of its own. It had become part of the cultural conversation about customer service and respect. Years would pass. The specific details would become fuzzy. People would forget names and exact circumstances. But the essential story would remain. There was once a customer who was treated badly. Instead of just complaining, this customer took action. Legal, ethical, but thorough action. This customer documented everything, filed detailed complaints, got the staff investigated, taught them a lesson they would never forget. And that lesson was simple but profound. Treat people with respect. Actions have consequences. You never know who someone might be or what they might do if you treat them badly. But more importantly, everyone deserves basic human dignity regardless of who they are or what power they have. That was the legacy of Marcus Chen's elaborate plan. Not just one improved restaurant, but a widespread reminder that respect matters, that accountability matters, that how we treat each other in small daily interactions shapes the kind of world we live in. Derek locked up his house for the night. He looked at his own reflection in the hallway mirror. He was a different person than he had been a year ago. Better, more thoughtful, more conscious of his impact on others. All because one customer refused to be disrespected. All because one customer had the skills and determination to teach a lesson. All because actions have consequences. Derek turned off the light and went to bed. Tomorrow would be another day of serving customers. Another day of treating people with respect. Another day of living the lesson he had learned. The business card would still be on the wall tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. A permanent reminder that respect is not optional, that dignity matters, that every interaction is an opportunity to make the world slightly better or slightly worse. And Derek, along with countless others influenced by the story, would choose to make it better. That was the true revenge. Not humiliation, not destruction, but transformation. Lasting, meaningful transformation that rippled outward far beyond the original incident. Marcus Chen had achieved something remarkable without even knowing it. He had created change that would outlast him. That would influence people he would never meet. That would shape interactions in ways he would never see. And in doing so, he had proven something important. That one person can make a difference. That standing up against disrespect matters. That teaching lessons, when done ethically and legally, can create positive change. The world was not perfect. People would still be rude sometimes. Service would still be poor sometimes. Disrespect would still happen. But because of one customer's determined response, there were now thousands of service workers who thought twice before being cruel, who remembered the story, who chose respect over rudeness. That was legacy. That was impact. That was revenge of the most meaningful kind. Not destroying your enemies, but transforming them. Not seeking to harm, but teaching to improve. Not escalating conflict, but resolving it through accountability and growth. Marcus Chen had shown that power used wisely can create positive change, that skills applied ethically can teach important lessons, that one person's refusal to accept disrespect can inspire thousands to be better, and in the end, that was the most satisfying outcome possible. Not just personal vindication, but widespread improvement. Not just one lesson learned, but a cultural shift toward greater respect and dignity for all. The story would continue, the lesson would endure, the impact would grow, and Derek would wake up tomorrow and go to work and treat customers with respect. Not because he feared another Marcus Chen, but because he had learned deeply and permanently that it was the right thing to do. That was the final chapter. That was the ultimate outcome. That was how revenge done right transforms into something much greater than revenge. It becomes wisdom, it becomes culture, it becomes legacy. And that legacy would live on, long after everyone involved had forgotten the specific details but remembered the essential truth. Respect matters, actions have consequences, and how we treat each other defines who we are.